About 6 years ago, we did a video in reference to Honeysuckle Decoction, primarily because it was high in a microRNA, something called 2911. And this microRNA 2911, which we'll flash back to in a second, basically was shown to inhibit viral replication. Speed up to today. What they discovered is that the certain SARS-CoV-2 has about 28 docking sites on which microRNA from Honeysuckle Decoction, very, very simple to manufacture, basically docks to, henceforth inhibits that viral replication. It's an interesting find. So with that in mind, let's get right into the research as follows. Now, 2014, Honeysuckle Decoction arrives again. The next pandemic. Back then, it was Ebola, Marburg, and now, obviously today, it is COVID. So let us proceed as follows. A practical and reliable therapeutic strategy to treat SARS-CoV-2 infection. Absorb plant microRNA 2911 in Honeysuckle Decoction, inhibits SARS-CoV-2 replication, and accelerates the negative conversion of infected patients. And that's a positive thing. All right, now, in order to get a better understanding on how Honeysuckle Decoction began to, how would you say, come into the limelight back then, or should say catch the eye of researchers, let us go back to October 2014. So to proceed as follows, here we go. 2014, entitled Honeysuckle-encoded atypical microRNA 2911. Remember that number, 2911. Directly targets influenza A viruses. And this was discovered at Nanjing University when they found that plant microRNA from honeysuckle, traditional honeysuckle, directly targets influenza A viruses, otherwise an acronym known as AIV, including H1N1, H5N1, H7N9. Drinking of honeysuckle soup, this is their words, not mine, this is direct excerpts from the study itself, can prevent AIV, influenza A virus infection, and reduce H5N1-induced mice death. Now, this is a pretty fascinating study, but I only got a couple of minutes and I can't go into as much detail as I like, so I will reference the study for you to check out on your own later on. Now, mice death. All right, let's proceed to today. So, that's why they called it virological penicillin, because it was something they found that had a common effect on a myriad of different viruses. In this case, we're looking back 6 years, influenza A, Ebola, Marburg. That was the pandemic back then. That was a concern. So now we fast forward today. Let's get right into the research. We're looking at this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the full study. I like this because the DOI citation will link to the full study, so the data analyst out there, the medical professional, can go straight to that study as follows. Quote, our previous studies have demonstrated that a plant microRNA, miR2911, which is enriched in Honeysuckle Decoction, directly targets influenza A viruses, AIV, which we covered, including H1N1, H5N1, and H7N9 subtypes by binding to their microRNA and blocking protein translation. That's an important part you got to take away from here, because what we're going for here is the mechanism of action, not just arbitrarily saying, well, this helps this. How does it help it to proceed? And it's going to be important, too, as far as devising strategies, and we'll get that towards the end. All right, to proceed. Oral administration, drinking, of Honeysuckle Decoction can prevent influenza A virus infection and reduce H5N1-induced mouse death. Subsequent studies have shown that microRNA 2911 also directly inhibits the replication of various viruses in addition to those influenza viruses. Upon dietary uptake, these microRNAs self-assemble into exosomes and are then secreted into the circulation and delivered into target tissues or specific cells, including liver, lung, spleen, pancreas, and T cells, given the unique GC-enriched nucleotide composition of microRNA 2N11. All right, and then of course, as we said before, 28 binding sites were confirmed to miR2911 and SARS-CoV-2. But what does that mean in human terms? All right, here we go. They actually conducted it's considered a pilot trial. Main reason being is if you're into statistics, I don't think the power rating would be high enough to ascertain with definitive wording, so to say. But still, extremely promising, especially potentially in combination with something else. But to proceed as follows. To assess the antiviral effect of miR-2911 in Honeysuckle Decoction on COVID-19 patients, quoting, we conducted a clinical study of 75 moderate type COVID-19 patients who received routine antiviral therapy at Nanjing Second Hospital from January 2020 to March 2020. Kind of funny because that's what the research was conducted back in 2014. We're enrolled in the study. Patients were divided into two groups based on additional treatment with microRNA 2911 and Honeysuckle Concoction, and obviously a traditional Chinese mixture without any microRNA 2911. So you have one with, one without. The primary endpoint was the negative conversion rate, and if you want to go into data in reference to the medications they were on and so on and so forth, that's going to be in the full study. All right. The primary endpoint was the negative conversion rate on the 7th day from the first treatment, which is a positive thing. There were 6 and 69 patients in the MIR6 out of, I should say, MIR2911 and MIR2911 groups, respectively, positive with the microRNA 2911 Honeysuckle Decoction and without. I know it's a little confusing to read here. Groups respectively. Supplement data, you find the DOI citation, the full study is published. The negative conversion rate on the 7th day in the microRNA 2911 group, we'll just say the Honeysuckle group, was 83.3%, and which was dramatically improved compared to that of patients treated with traditional Chinese medicine with no Honeysuckle Decoction. The time has been taken to become SARS-CoV-2 or negative, also favorably treated, The median here is important because the improvement time, 4 versus 12 days. All right, very cool. Now, again, I don't want to get into too much detail outside of basically what we covered so far, which is pretty obvious in reference to the potential inhibition through docking sites on SARS-CoV-2. So there's no further need to go further into that. Now we go into what they utilized. A little different than what they did back in 2014, but we're going to revert back to the 2014 study just to show you the ease of its manufacture. To proceed as follows. And again, to the censors out there, I'm no way abdicating anybody to do this on their own, for purely research principles. All right, here we go. Honeysuckle Concoction. Now we're looking at the microRNA 2911 content based upon that. Oral 100 milliliters twice daily, 30 grams of dry honeysuckle per patient, 600 milliliters of water boiled with 30 grams of dry honeysuckle for 80 minutes until you obtain 200 milliliters of honeysuckle decoction. All right, now we're going to go back to 2014 and look at the amount that they were utilized back at that time. Now, what's also important too is the ease of basically obtaining the honeysuckle decoction as follows. So let's go right back to time capsule here.
911
here we
is
go.
able to serve as the virological penicillin to directly target various viruses. Remember, we don't know how effective it is. It may be effective, but to what degree? And so it requires further studying before conjecture could be come into full play. Let's just put it that way. Now, here's the cool part about it. All right, obviously, it fights all the influenza. How difficult was for the researchers to actually do the study and where they get their honeysuckle? This is where it's kind of cool and kind of homey. This is what they did. The honeysuckle, HS, was bought from a Chinese herbal medicine shop. Honeysuckle decoction was prepared by boiling 10 grams of honeysuckle in 100 milliliters of water for 30 minutes, resulting in a 50 milliliter decoction. Now, here's the key. Researchers thought if you boiled it, you would destroy most of the microRNA. But something weird happened when they boiled the honeysuckle. The microRNA 2911 actually became the predominant microRNA in that decoction. The microRNA, which we've talked about doing all this stuff here. To the point where after they boiled it for 30 minutes and left the 50 milliliter decoction remaining of this honeysuckle soup, 70% of the microRNA in that honeysuckle soup end up being microRNA 2911. As found here through the Illumina sequencing analysis revealed, and there's graphs and data to show you exactly how it was revealed,
So you get what happens there. So actually, you weren't destroying it by boiling it. You were actually increasing the amount of microRNA 2911 in the decoction. Now keep in mind, please, the amount that was utilized in the study back in 2014, which we alluded to, is different than the amount which is being used currently in this study in reference to SARS-CoV-2. But now, without adding too much to it, we're going to conclude to proceed as follows. Quoting, our study demonstrates that 30 grams of dried honeysuckle is safe for use, supplementary data, and has sufficient antiviral function. On the other hand, the data that microRNA 2911 in exosomes significantly inhibits virus replication not only confirms that the extra high antiviral activity of miR-2911 compared with that of remdesivir and hydroxychloroquine, I assume, but also provides a novel strategy that using serum exosomes collected from healthy donor offers the most similar condition in vivo to assess efficacy of potential drugs in vitro. Conclusion. Again, I'm going to have to censor one word here, and you're going to know exactly what it is, because I found out the hard way. Any word like this used in conjunction in a video tends to get pulled. So, self-censoring, wonderful. In summary, our report suggests that absorbed plant microRNA 2911 in Honeysuckle Decoction inhibits SARS-CoV-2 replication and accelerates the negative conversion of infected patients. Honeysuckle Decoction treatment might greatly help infected patients and stop the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this is the part that's very eloquent in the approach. Over the past few weeks, I should say few months, you've had certain elements, let's say for example, trisulfated heparin, you had the microRNA 2911, you had UV222, you've had basically strong correlation between vitamin D and selenium, and other polyphenols were referenced to quercetin or heparin and zinc. So, what can be done? All right, the traditional, the thousands of years of medical research, pretty much what we're doing today is finding ways not to spit on each other. Henceforth, the mask, the distancing, and so forth and so forth. Technology in science is far beyond that bureaucratic, basically mitigation method for this pandemic. So, all right, so we don't spit on each other, fine. But what else? All right, now imagine the combination here. You take a microRNA 2911 from Honeysuckle Concoction, and basically what you're doing is you're inhibiting viral replication. Then, as we covered before, the trisulfated heparin, which basically decoys that virus, or whatever it is that manufactures that virus. So you have an inhibition of replication, you have a decoy, so where the RNA is trying to go towards a certain cell so to use that machinery, it ends up falling for the trisulfated heparin instead. Great, that's human, that's biology. Beautiful strategy, very simple, should be studied. Then, public arena. You have UVC222, obviously you can't use UVC254 because it's harmful, but UVC222 was shown to be very effective within 16 minutes of reducing basically SARS-CoV-2 down about 99.8% and safe for people. So arenas, restaurants, so forth and so forth, an incredible effect. Then you build a nutritional firewall with making certain that individuals which are prone, vitamin D, selenium, basically your polyphenols such as the quercetin, heparin, zinc, so on and so forth. So you build a nutritional firewall. Then what gets past that firewall, you automatically have for treatment something that interferes with the docking sites of the particular virus at hand, and at top of that, works ingeniously in an eloquent manner with a trisulfated heparin and so on and so forth down the line. So much science and so much more eloquent than the simple strategy we have today, which basically is stopping each other from spitting on each other. Thousands of years of medical advancement, and that's basically what we're doing as far as a common denominator. Again, DOI citation will be there for you to follow a link. Wonderful, wonderful potential research into treatments. Has to be validated along a little larger groups I'd like to see. And again, wonderful, wonderful research. The research community is doing a great job at coming through with a lot of these breakthroughs. Now, it is up to governments to start taking advantage of this knowledge, move forward, and actually do something about it. Again, Ralph Church Channel signing off. Gratitude for watching, and thank you. I look forward to see you all next week. Links will be there on the YouTube channel for you to follow, so you can get into the research and delve into it on your own. Catch you all in a bit.